A little digital drop action coming to you this morning. I'm Ross Dillon, joined by the one and only Mr. AWOL Digital. How are you this morning, sir?
I'm very digital, but as you can see on my window, see the little grayness up there? It's real smoky outside today. Wildfires in the area. Mother Earth is trying to kill everybody, but the challenges that we're facing here with wildfires aren't anywhere near the challenges that creators are facing right now, right?
Right. How could they even be comparable? We're going to do this today. This is something different. A couple of these we've already talked about in the past, but we're going to re-hit on them. We've got 10 challenges that content creators face pretty much every single day. Yeah. And we've got about 25 minutes we're going to try and run through. We're going to get through all 10, by the way. We're just going to do it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
We're going to solve all 10 major challenges creators face in one podcast. Listen to the end because the juicy bit's always at the end. Let's go.
Right. Now, these aren't exactly for YouTube. This isn't exactly for social media. This is just the incredible broad range of content creation. So let's start off number one, and these are challenges from professional content creators.
Yep.
Here we go. Creating the right content that can get traffic, earn the trust of readers, and additionally make sales. Add in creating unique perspectives that haven't been said before, and it makes creating high quality content consistently very difficult.
Yes, it is. So that right there is called a process that you want to follow for your content. And this is something that takes years to develop. So a lot of the full-time creators that I coach, they've figured out, okay, I found a topic or a niche that is undercovered and I have found some sort of secret sauce within that niche and I kind of broke out. Maybe they got a couple 100,000 subscribers and they're making barely enough money to make a living. At that point, they start running into problems because their YouTube channel, their Twitch stream, their website, their business, whatever, it's kind of wobbling up and down, right? In terms of the amount of traffic it's getting and the amount of revenue it's getting. So what you need to be thinking about at that stage, which I consider kind of like stage 2 of content creation, is really narrowing down your process to create content and literally writing it down or talking it through with somebody and figuring out which elements are the weakest. Is it finding topics that you're struggling with the most, but you have no problem actually converting people into customers later? Great. Then we need to focus on that research process. We need to put the right tools in place. Google Trends, TubeBuddy, keyword platforms. There are subscription-based platforms for keywords on every single topic there is out there. And you really need to lock down that research process and do it like it's your job. So that's the difference between a tier 1 creator, a stage 1 creator, and a stage 2 creator. Stage 2 creators have locked down their process. They understand what their weaknesses are, and they put those processes into place literally like a business and like clockwork. And that's how they're able to go from making things like $3,000 to $6,000 or $7,000 per month, which is a living for a lot of people, right? To making $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 plus dollars per month, and scaling that up into a media business. That's the real answer to that question. And so all those things can seem overwhelming in totality, but what they're really talking about is putting processes in for their entire content creation business and mapping those out one by one. And sometimes you need to work with somebody that has more business acumen than you to do that, because a lot of folks are like early 20-somethings, right? Or they've never run their own business and they just need help understanding how to put that together.
Right. I love how you said write down your strategy for doing that. And don't think that you're just going to remember. You got this in your head. Everyone thinks, I'm good enough. I'll remember my process and everything like that. You won't. That's not how it works. Write it down. And yes, everything you write down, the process is going to change over time as new things are, implemented into the strategy. But write it down. Have something that you can follow from step 1 to, step 10, whatever it may be. I love that. Okay. Number 2, and this is one that, oh my God, do we face all the time. Time. Especially when it comes to creating content for myself, the client work can pay the bills. So that naturally gets priority. It takes time to create uniquely valuable content. And there are only so many hours in a day. So I think the challenge that he's talking about here is after you do the work for your clients, which is something that we experience, how do you make the time and how do you, I guess, even get the motivation to then go on and create content for yourself, for your own brand?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So, gosh, right now has been such a squeeze for me. I feel you big time. Oh my God. I've got a 2-year-old at home. I've got a 4-year-old at home. So now there's 14 hours of childcare that my wife and I need to provide. We both have full-time jobs. I have a full-time job working for Raging Bull, an e-learning company. Plus, I've got folks I've already made a commitment to in terms of coaching and advising tech startups. I mean, seriously, where is the time to make content? So, number one, doing a lean content format like we're doing here on the Digital Drop podcast, where Ross and I every morning at 7:45 a.m. our time or 8:45 a.m. your time in Eastern, we're just doing a half-hour podcast every day and shoving it on the air. And then we have to get to work. Then we have to service our clients. But we've made a commitment that this 45-minute block right here is for creating content every day. So we get 5 pieces of video content and audio content out every single week, no matter what. That type of lean content production can make a huge impact, and you build it into your schedule, into an open spot in your schedule, and that way you can be consistent. And now that we've done this with the Digital Drop podcast, all of our views, all of our downloads, all of our discovery for the show has skyrocketed as a result. Number 2 thing that you can do, and this is something that is, something that nobody talks about, and it's cut yourself a break. When it comes to making uniquely valuable content and going all in and making this amazing script and doing this incredible video, cut yourself a freaking break. Like, you just aren't going to be able to do it sometimes. You just aren't going to be motivated sometimes. And you aren't going to be able to push through. That's just the way it is. So you got to cut yourself a freaking break. And at some points in your life, you'll be able to double down and go all in and be able to do the most amazing work because you have 4 hours of time free or 8 hours of time free. But sometimes you won't have more than 30 minutes free, and you can't do an inspired piece of work and something incredible with like 30 minutes, right? So cut yourself a freaking break. But do the lean content strategy like we're doing here on the Digital Drop podcast, no matter what. And that way, that muscle, that creative muscle is always being worked out. You know what I mean, Ross? So you're not rusty and having to get back into it. What do you think, man?
I agree with you 100%. And I love the fact that you mentioned, if you only have 30 minutes to create a good, solid piece of content, it may be best just to not do it and maybe go find an old piece of content that performed well and just repost it. If we're talking about social media, probably not necessarily like YouTube or something like that. But there's no harm in that. There's no harm. People think that, resharing things that you've done in the past is a bad idea. And that's just simply not the case. One of the biggest strategies on social media is consistently resharing your stuff. Everybody says, oh, it looks so tacky when you retweet your own tweets, but it doesn't. Who cares? It's getting more exposure to new followers. That's so funny.
I literally just retweeted our own tweet right now as we said that.
That's so tacky, Abel. I can't believe you do something like that. But yeah, I mean, there's no harm in it because if you're doing it right, if you're putting out successful content, you're going to have new followers. You're going to have new people who have not seen that old content. So resharing it out to get to them, there's nothing tacky about it. And if anybody tells you it's tacky, just tell them to piss off.
Yep, piss off.
Here's another one. My biggest challenge is to efficiently distribute the content. Once I have the content created, it generally takes 5 to 10 hours or more in order just to distribute everything, which makes it incredibly hard to do.
Yeah, so that you're doing it wrong. So you just need to figure out a leaner way to do it. So number one, I understand that it can be very time consuming to distribute your content, but you're making it too complicated and you need to slim it down. So a lot of people, when they spend 5 to 10 hours to distribute, it's because they're obsessing over the craziest details of their thumbnail. They're obsessing over all of the metadata that's there. They're obsessing over making sure that the embed in their website is perfect. Their perfection and their quality standard that they have for themselves for distribution is too high. Quantity is greater than quality when it comes to content on the internet. And if your piece of content is fire, it's okay if you instead of spending 2 hours on the thumbnail, spend 45 minutes, maybe spend 30 minutes and just make something good that clearly communicates the concept and then move on. Instead of obsessing over every single tag on your YouTube video and every single word in your description, put together a template for the majority of it. I've got a video on that on my channel, AWOL Digital, all about that. And just make sure you write a great little piece right at the top, the part that people actually care about. So you need to really focus on what people actually care about and what they actually read and where the actual traction is. Spend your time there, and everything else, make a copy paste template for it and roll with it. Also, get tools that make distribution faster and easier. Restream.io allows you to stream on every platform. That's amazing. Tools like Capwing allow you to create content quickly on your phone or on your computer and just auto-distribute on other platforms after it's being subtitled. You know what I mean? So it's like subtitling is an example. So people be like, it takes me 20 hours to make a piece of video because I need to go get the captions and the blah, blah, blah. Go use a free subtitling software like Capwing and save yourself 24 hours. Give yourself a break. So you need to simplify your distribution if it's taking you that long, because all of that time you're spending on distribution, you should be spending on making more content, not distributing your content. And if this is something that you really struggle with, this is the last part, I'll kick it over to you, Ross. Hire somebody like Ross to distribute the content for you with your initial dollars. So a lot of people think, I need to hire an editor, I need to buy better equipment, I need to buy these other things. When I'm investing in my business out the gate, advertising, you can hire somebody to distribute your content for you. And then all of that time that you were spending on that instantly becomes something you can use to build your business rather than doing these grindy, basically content input tasks on the internet. What do you think, Ross?
Yeah, I agree. Distribution of your content, it does. There's no way around that. Even when you have the shortcuts and the right software to do everything correctly, there's no way around it that it is going to take time. My personal strategy, and this is from a social media perspective, from my personal brand, is I set aside, usually on a Sunday night, and I go ahead and lay out everything that's going to be posted for the entire week. I use Buffer, which is you can get it as a free tool, but it's only like $15, $20 to actually get like a business plan. And you can literally set out your schedule for each day in advance and then just load the content in, and it automatically goes into those time slots. It's a huge time saver. So from a social media perspective, that's what I do. It's like Abel said, don't spend your entire week worrying about distribution. If you can set aside, 1 or 2 hours, on a weekend night when you're not going to be, bugged by clients, by family or friends, whatever it may be, and you can just focus on that, your distribution time will go way down.
Absolutely.
This next one's probably my favorite question of the bunch. It's not even a question. It's just a statement. Finding the approach that speaks on an emotional level to my client's target audience. To do this, I have to get to know my client's ideal client as well, or most of the time, even better than they do. Sometimes they can give me all the answers, but most of the time, I give them insights they hadn't even considered. So this is a good one for you, AWOL, because we've all had to go through this, and this is more pertaining to when you've actually been hired by a client to either work with their clients or work directly with them. Is it true that you literally have to get to know them or their clients better than they do in order to make your strategy successful?
No, that's amateur hour right there. So no, you don't. So if you're in a position where you have to get to know your clients better than they do for them to be successful, that may not be a client that you should pick up. Number one, you should reconsider that because they may be asking too much of you. So maybe they do need you to provide that level of value to them. Okay, then in that case, you maybe need to charge them more money. So that's another thing where people feel like, I can only help this person if I put in all this extra effort and I've got to really do the right thing for them and blah, blah, blah. That's great that you feel that way. That's great that you want to serve people in that way. But at the end of the day, it's not your job to solve these problems for these businesses unless they pay you to solve that problem for their business. And so if you got into a job, for example, to help somebody with their email strategy, and you find yourself in that type of position where they don't even understand their own client, then you need to have an honest conversation with that client and say, look, I was going to help you with set up your email platform. I was going to help you put together some templates. I was going to help you, do XYZ for it. But it sounds like you need somebody to research your customers and do all these other things. I'm happy to do that for you, but my fee isn't going to be $30 an hour to do that. It's going to be $45. What do you think? And then have a real conversation with your client up front about that. And if they're like, well, what do you mean I don't understand my client? Be like, cool, you understand your client? Sounds great. Okay, you write the copy for the emails and I'll take care of the rest. And then they're going to be like, And so you really need to put it back on your client.
right? There are two different perspectives to this. When you're working with, let's just call what you were just talking about. Let's just call it like a marketing agency, just for shits and giggles. If they're getting their clients, part of their strategy in getting their clients should be learning everything about their clients. So if they're then putting that onto you, then number one, they got very lucky for getting that client because they obviously didn't do the research. And number two, like Awell said, you should absolutely be charging them more because learning about your client, learning about their clients, doing their homework for them, that's a lot more work. And you should be charging for that. Now, the second perspective from that is in some cases, instance, like for me, I work with a lot of comedians. These are public figures. Yes, I do have to learn their voice. I do have to learn, how they talk. I do have to learn how they present themselves. And that's just part of the challenge of coming with it. Because if you're talking on their behalf, if you're putting stuff out on social media on their behalf, if you're writing copy on their behalf, it does have to sound like it's coming from them. But if you're doing your homework from the beginning, it's not hard to make that adaptation. I think it usually after about a month of working with a public figure client, I've usually got their voice down, and it shouldn't take any longer than that. Yeah. Okay, next one, creation. It's really not that hard to come up with plenty of creative ideas. The hardest part, at least for me, is turning the core of those ideas into coherent structures and being able to back up the claims, ideas, and processes with external sources. I see this all the time. And I would say this is probably referring more to like blog posts and stuff like that. How important is it to especially go through and make sure everything is correctly sourced in the content you're putting out?
I mean, it's pretty important. Especially as time passes and people get more and more picky about, whether they've been credited in their content or not. Platforms become more sophisticated in identifying, whether an image or a video or something is stolen or XYZ, and people can hire companies to manage their content for them on the internet and enforce these sorts of things. Properly sourcing is important, and the more you source something, the better. So a lot of the time, people are worried that if I source something or if I say I got something from somewhere, it makes me look like lesser, right? It makes me look like less of an expert or something like that. And that's just not the case. If you put in the work to find something and put it in your content, it makes you look like you're a well-informed person and a well-researched person that actually went out there and you're more credible because you've done research from multiple sources. So I would say source everything, credit everything, and let your audience know where you got the information. And it actually is more valuable when you do that than if you just say a fact versus just saying a fact and being like, and that's also backed up by an article in Forbes, by the way.
Right.
All right.
And now in a question for you, speaking directly about like YouTube videos and stuff like that, what is the proper way to actually source in those? Do you actually put a graphic with, the title, like in the, top right corner of the screen with the source, or is it better to put it in the description of the video with a link to the source?
Yeah. So you should do both. Okay. So if you show something on the screen, you should try to show it in context. I can't go into all of the detail of this because this is detailed copyright law now, and I'm not a legal advisor. But here, let me just share an example. So let's say that you, one of the most dangerous things to do is to show someone else's video. So we'll go with the most dangerous example. So if you're going to show someone else's video on your channel and you're going to react to it or you're going to talk about it, show it within the YouTube player, not full screen, but within the YouTube player, and make sure that you can see their channel name, you can see the title of the video, and you can see it within the context of being in the YouTube player while you're showing it. That's one thing you can do. Then verbally say, all right, and here's a video from Maurizio's channel, and I'll throw a link in the description below to this one, but what they're talking about here is blah, blah, blah. So then you're showing it in context, channel name, verbal credit given, linked credit in the description. You've credited the crap out of that video, okay? The thing you should be careful about, of course, most of the time is make sure you don't play music that may be contained within video content, because then your video will get automatically demonetized or claimed or copyright struck. But showing visuals in videos can be a little bit safer depending on what you're doing. But if you do it with that kind of deliberate level of crediting, you can be protected under fair use. Essentially, as long as you're transforming the content, providing commentary, and providing extra value to your audience, that did go to court with H3H3. H3 Productions went through that process. Ethan went through that process, and he won in a case where he was reacting to other people's videos and crediting them, not just showing the video and then doing funnies off of that video. Make sense?
Got it. These next two, let's move fast because these next two are actually really good. Tracking the offline effectiveness or long-term effectiveness of certain content is difficult to gauge. We've created content nearly 2 years ago that still gets traction today and leads to benefits for ourselves and clients. So being able to provide complete tracking and benefits becomes a long-term challenge rather than a short-term monthly or weekly report.
Is this a report for themselves or for them clients that they're worried about?
It sounds like they're talking about for their clients, but more so, I think just tracking the effectiveness in like the short-term effectiveness and long-term effectiveness of it. You know, how does it determine what content to make going forward? If all of a sudden a piece of content from 2 years ago starts blowing up now, does that mean it's worth readdressing that topic now, or continue on what you're doing on the path?
Yes, that's a very complex question.
It is.
So a couple different things. Reporting being difficult to do. Yes, I understand. So here's what I would tell you. Try to reduce the amount of reporting you're doing for your client down to the absolute minimum. And if they have insane reporting requirements, let them know, I'm not going to do all that because that's a waste of time. And if they insist on you spending hours and hours and hours doing crazy reporting on the content, then maybe you should pull out of that business relationship. Because reporting isn't that critical when it comes to content over time, because it's all about freshness. It's all about what's working this month rather than what worked in the past, last month, the last quarter, the last year, etc. Because things change so quickly with the algorithms of all these platforms that over-focusing on the content performance in the past isn't that important. You should really just be looking at the previous 30 days. And there are tools that you can use on a per platform basis that'll generate reports for your client automatically. So for example, I use TubeBuddy's keyword ranking report every single month to report to my main client, Raging Bull, on how effective I am at getting the branded keywords for their business. I literally just hit a button, it generates the report, and then I create a summary for them every single month. Done. Now, when it looks like when you're looking at things like revenue for a business, and obviously all of your clients want to see that the work that you're doing generates revenue, right? Sponsors included, right? There needs to be a tracking link system put into place, whether you're creating a UTM or you're creating a tracking link directly that your sponsor provided you. Once that tracking link is in place and the back end is set up with the tracking links, you should be able to automatically generate a report that tells you how much money the content made every single month. So automatic report generating is the way to go. And if your client is asking you to manually put together reports and spreadsheets, tell them, look, can we work together to make this automatic? If not, you need to pay me more money because now you're paying me money to generate manual reports for you. And really, I should be focusing on making money for your business. Make sense?
Right. Makes absolute sense. Content creation. You're hired to do content creation, not make reports. And the more time that they take away from that content creation, the less quality of the content you're going to put out. And that brings us to our final one. I think I may speak for a lot of growth-focused content creators when I say it's hard to continually up the quality while simultaneously upping the cadence of the content. That's a real struggle for creators.
Yeah, so the key here, and I'm going to drop some knowledge on you. Upping the quality. Hello? Oh,
you're there. Boom? You're good. I just said boom.
Oh, you said boom. Okay, I thought you said hello. Yeah, so the continually upping the quality is not the goal. So there's a certain level of quality that you're going to hit with your content, and then there's going to be this place where you get diminishing returns. And you just need to achieve that level of quality and just stay there. Done. You don't need to go up into infinity. Nobody cares. You're the only one that cares once you get to that point of diminishing returns. So once you get there, once the quality of your content is, let's say, a 7.5 out of 10, it doesn't need to be an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, or a 10 out of 10, a 7.5 out of 10, then you stay there, you create processes, and you make that content production so freaking efficient by repeating the process over and over and over again, by hiring a killer editor, hiring a killer graphic designer, maybe even hiring a project manager to manage your business for you, or a manager to manage your your personal brand for you, and you put people into place. We're talking about end game here, right? You put people into place to manage that content production company that you built. And you keep the bar at 7.5 out of 10. You try not to let it dip below that, but you don't obsess about it going to an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10. That's how businesses can really scale up their content and get the quantity out there without obsessing over quality, because those that create more content and release more content will beat you in the market. If they have 5 pieces of 7.5 out of 10 level quality content and you have 1 10 out of 10, they destroyed you. They absolutely crush you. They have 500% more content than you. What are you thinking? Like, you are just holding yourself back. So you need to like take your foot off the gas when it comes to constantly upping the production quality. I've got to get better lights. I've got to get a better camera. I've got to get better graphics. No, just get some lights, some cameras, and some graphics and crank out the freaking content. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and that's spot on. There's one final question. We're not going to have time to get to it, but I'm just going to bring it up because maybe it'd be good for another episode down the road. And it's how to find quality content creators on niche subjects for an affordable price. And I would like to wait because I want to get Andrew Perrin's opinion on that. Maybe we can cover that next week or something. Cool.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. That sounds really good. I love this. Look, everybody that's watching right now, we want to know what you want us to address in future episodes. Hit us up on Twitter at DigitalDropPod. Tag us with your questions, your challenges, send us a video, and we will address what you want us to talk about directly. We'll even address your particular channel or your stream or your video directly if you tag us on Twitter with it. So hit us up with that. Ross, any parting thoughts on this one?
Nope. This was a lot of fun. Very educational. We moved through that quick. Typically we don't get to all the subjects, but we got it. We hit it right on time.
We should do these more often. Let's go find more articles and stuff and top challenges stuff. And we should source. Where'd you find that article that had these top challenges in it, Ross?
Visage.co, visage.co. And you can find, I guess it's just like a content creation website. So cool. It's worth it. It's worth it. Yeah, we need a source, just like we mentioned.
Yeah, I'm going to drop that link to that on our YouTube version of this. So if you guys want to see the video replays of this show, obviously they're on YouTube at the Digital Drop Podcast. Just search for that. And we're on every podcasting platform as well. So check us out there and be sure to subscribe to get the audio versions of this show 5 days a week. We're live on Twitter at 9 a.m. Eastern every single weekday. That's efficient content production, my friends. See you in the next one. Ross, I like this format. You should be the host, not me.
I don't know about that. We'll see. Maybe we'll pick straws.
All right. Bye, guys. Go create content. Bye-bye.